The Corexian Empire's first observation of Earth came not with thunder and fanfare, but with the quiet hum of cloaked surveillance vessels at the edges of the solar system. Admiral Vextar, his iridescent scales gleaming under the dim bridge lights, studied the holographic projection of the blue-green world with 6 eyes that had witnessed the fall of 1,000 civilizations. Primitive, he muttered, mandibles clicking in barely concealed disdain. Their most advanced vessels still rely on chemical propulsion. They haven't even established a permanent presence beyond their moon. The data streams flowing through the bridge told a story the Corexians had seen countless times before. A young species, barely spacefaring, still fighting among themselves over resources and ideology. Their most advanced computers were laughably simple compared to even the most basic Corexian neural networks. Their weapons, nuclear devices, and kinetic projectiles, belonged in a museum of ancient warfare. But Earth's location was crucial. Situated at the intersection of 3 major hyperspace lanes, it represented a strategic choke point that the Empire couldn't ignore. The humans would need to be subjugated, their world transformed into another fortress world, in service to the Empire's eternal expansion. "Begin the diplomatic overtures," Vextar commanded. "Follow standard protocol for primitive species integration." The standard protocol was elegant in its simplicity. Approach openly with promises of friendship and technological exchange, while secretly preparing for eventual domination. It had worked flawlessly for centuries. The first contact was orchestrated with precision. A single Corexian vessel, impressive but not overtly threatening, appeared in high Earth orbit. The message they broadcast was received simultaneously by every major government. "Greetings, people of Earth. We come in peace, seeking friendship and exchange between our civilizations." Humanity's response surprised even the veteran admiral. Instead of panic or religious hysteria, the humans responded with measured calm. Their leaders gathered with unprecedented speed and unity, establishing the Global Contact Council within days. They accepted the Corexians' offers of limited technological exchange with gratitude, but showed no signs of the desperate technological hunger that usually characterized primitive species. "Most irregular," Vextar noted in his reports to the Imperial Command. "They accept our gifts, but ask few questions. They seem almost indifferent to our superior technology." The humans shared their culture freely, their art, music, and literature. They welcomed Corexian observers to their major cities. They participated enthusiastically in cultural exchange programs. But when it came to sharing their own technological developments or military capabilities, they became politely evasive. "Our defensive capabilities are modest," the human representatives would say. "We focus primarily on peaceful development." For 3 years, the dance continued. The Corexians established embassies, traded goods, and mapped every square meter of the planet's surface. Their spies infiltrated human institutions, their probes scanned for hidden facilities, and their analysts compiled detailed reports on Earth's defensive capabilities. Everything confirmed their initial assessment. Earth was defenseless against a modern space fleet. Their orbital satellites could be disabled in seconds. Their military bases could be neutralized from orbit. Their cities had no meaningful protection against energy weapons or gravity manipulation. What the Corexians couldn't see was the truth hidden beneath this carefully constructed facade. They didn't detect the quantum computation arrays buried deep within the Earth's crust, or the dark matter detectors woven through the planet's magnetic field. They never noticed that the primitive satellites contained metamaterials that bent scanning beams around vast hidden installations, or that human computers were running complex simulations of Corexian battle tactics. Most importantly, they'd never questioned why humans seemed so unconcerned about their technological inferiority. In their arrogance, they never considered that this might be exactly what humanity wanted them to think. As the 3rd year of peaceful contact drew to a close, Admiral Vextar finally received the orders he'd been waiting for. The Imperial fleet, 10,000 ships strong, would arrive within the month. Earth would be given a chance to surrender peacefully, but the outcome was a foregone conclusion. The Empire would have its strategic hyperspace nexus, and humanity would learn its place in the galaxy. "Send word to our embassies," Vextar commanded. "Inform them to prepare for the arrival of the Imperial fleet. It's time to show these humans what true power looks like." In his private quarters, the Admiral drafted the invasion plan with the confidence of someone who had overseen 100 successful conquests. He never suspected that his every communication was being intercepted and analyzed, or that the humans were preparing a welcome for his fleet that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. The stage was set. The Empire was about to learn a lesson about underestimating humanity, a lesson written in fire across the stars. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display that showed the approaching Coraxian fleet. Each ship was represented by a point of light, forming a vast constellation of impending doom, or so the alien. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at the tactical display one last time. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, advancing their technology in secret while letting the galaxy think they were centuries behind. In a few minutes, the Coraxians would learn the truth, and the galaxy would never be the same. "Send the warning," she commanded. "One time only," as agreed. Throughout the Coraxian fleet, communication officers received a simple message. "This is your final warning. Leave now or be destroyed." On his flagship, Admiral Vextar laughed at the message, just as humanity's psychological profiles had predicted he would. The Empire was about to learn that appearances could be deceiving, and humanity was not the primitive species they appeared to be. The trap was set, the shield was ready, and humanity's moment of revelation was about to begin. Admiral Vextar's laughter still echoed through the bridge when Earth revealed its first deception. The primitive satellites, scattered throughout Earth's orbit, suddenly shifted. Quantum cores activated, and space itself seemed to ripple around them. Energy surge detected. A Coraxian sensor officer shouted, all six eyes widening in alarm. Multiple sources, impossible readings. Before the Admiral could respond, the first wave of Earth's defense grid activated. The satellites didn't fire conventional weapons. They distorted the quantum fabric of space itself. Hundreds of Coraxian ships found themselves caught in localized fields where the laws of physics bent and twisted. Hull plates crumpled under forces their shields were never designed to resist. "Impossible," Vextar roared, watching as a third of his fleet was disabled in seconds. Their technology was primitive. We saw their facilities, their factories. But humanity's true factories had never been visible. Deep beneath the oceans, inside hollow mountains, and hidden in pocket dimensions created by their quantum engineering, humans had built weapons and defenses that the Empire had never imagined possible. The shield, Earth's masterwork, finally revealed itself. 97 layers of interlocked dark matter fields became visible as they engaged, surrounding the planet in a geometric pattern of pure energy that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so terrifying. Second wave deploying, Sarah Chen announced in the underground command center, initiating quantum entanglement disruption. The next phase of Earth's defense proved even more devastating. Beams of coherent dark matter lanced out from hidden platforms, passing through the Coraxian shields as if they didn't exist. Ships found their quantum communication networks, the heart of their tactical coordination, shattered. Weapon systems went dark. Navigation computers failed. Admiral Vextar fought to maintain control of his disintegrating fleet. Launch all fighters. Target their population centers. They cannot possibly protect everything. But humanity had prepared for this too. As Coraxian fighters streamed from their carrier ships, Earth's atmosphere itself became a weapon. Quantum manipulators hidden in weather satellites activated, creating controlled gravitational distortions. Fighter craft found themselves crushed or torn apart by forces their pilots couldn't even comprehend. "Sir," a tactical officer called out, new contacts appearing everywhere. From concealed hangars around the planet, Earth's own ships finally emerged. They didn't resemble the chemical rockets the corrections had observed. These vessels were smooth black shapes that seemed to absorb light, powered by dark matter reactors and controlled by quantum AI systems far more advanced than anything the Empire possessed. "You saw what we wanted you to see." Sarah's voice echoed through every Coraxian communication channel. "You believed what we wanted you to believe. This is humanity's true face." The Earth ships moved with impossible grace, their quantum drives allowing them to ignore most laws of inertia. They didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they projected fields that disrupted the very forces holding Coraxian ships together. Capital ships that had survived centuries of combat simply came apart at the molecular level. In the command center, James Martinez monitored the battle's progress. The enemy fleet is in complete disarray. Their command and control structure has collapsed. No ship has managed to penetrate even the first layer of the shield. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display in horror as the mighty Imperial fleet was systematically dismantled. Ships that tried to flee found their hyperdrives wouldn't activate. Earth's quantum disruption fields had turned local space into a trap from which there was no escape. "How?" he whispered. "How did we not see this?" "Because your Empire's greatest weakness is its pride," Sarah's voice answered. "You saw a primitive species and assumed that was all we could be. You never asked why we seemed so unconcerned by your superior technology. You never wondered why we showed so little interest in your advanced weapons. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than 30 minutes. When it was over, the greatest fleet in the Empire's history was reduced to scattered debris floating in Earth's orbit. Not a single human life was lost." In his flagship's rapidly failing bridge, Admiral Vextar received one final transmission. "Your Empire has ruled through fear and technological superiority. But today, that changes. Humanity is emerging onto the galactic stage, not as conquests or subjects, but as equals. Remember this day, Admiral. Remember what happens when you underestimate humanity." As emergency power failed and his ship's systems went dark, Vextar realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. Humanity hadn't just defeated an Imperial fleet. They had shattered the very foundation of the Empire's power. The myth of Imperial technological supremacy was broken, and a new era was about to begin. The news spread across the galaxy like a supernova's shockwave. On countless worlds, beings of all species gathered around communication terminals, watching in stunned silence as the footage played again and again. The mighty Imperial fleet, pride of the Coraxian Empire, reduced to scattered debris by a species that had supposedly barely mastered spaceflight. In the Imperial Palace on Corax Prime, the Emperor's inner chamber had never been so silent. The massive holographic display showed the battle from multiple angles, captured by surviving probe droids. The Emperor, his scales dulled with age and stress, watched Earth's quantum weapons tear apart his finest chips as if they were made of paper. "Impossible," one of his advisors whispered, mandibles trembling. "Our intelligence networks, our spies, how could we have been so wrong?" But they hadn't been wrong. They had reported exactly what humanity wanted them to see. Now, in chambers like this across the galaxy, leaders of 100 species were realizing the same terrible truth. They knew nothing about Earth's true capabilities. On the occupied world of Nexus II, the news had a very different effect. The native Nexarians, enslaved by the Empire for generations, watched the battle footage in hidden underground chambers. They saw their oppressors' invincible ships crumple under forces they couldn't comprehend, and for the first time in centuries, they felt something dangerous. Hope. "The humans have proved they can be defeated," a resistance leader whispered to her followers. "The Empire is not invincible." Similar scenes played out across 1,000 worlds. Species that had lived under Imperial dominion for generations began to look at their masters differently. The carefully maintained image of Coraxian technological superiority had been shattered, and with it, the psychological chains that had helped keep the Empire's subjects in line. In Earth orbit, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's first officially revealed starship, the HSS Revelation. The vessel's quantum glass windows offered a clear view of the cleanup operation below, where advanced robots were carefully collecting the debris of the Imperial fleet for study. The diplomatic requests are still pouring in, James Martinez reported, joining her at the window. Every major species in the galaxy wants to establish relations with Earth now, even some we didn't know existed. Sarah nodded, watching as a piece of Correxian hull plate was enveloped in a containment field, and the Empire. There, adjusting to the new reality. Their diplomatic corps is working overtime to explain how this wasn't actually a defeat, but a misunderstanding between potential allies. James couldn't keep the amusement from his voice. The Correxian Empire was indeed scrambling to adapt. Their entire diplomatic and military strategy had been based on the assumption of technological superiority. Now they faced a species that had not only defeated their finest fleet, but had demonstrated technology that their best scientists couldn't even explain. In hidden resistance bases across the galaxy, Earth's message was being studied with intense interest. The humans hadn't just revealed their power. They had provided proof that the Empire could be resisted successfully. Already, underground channels were lighting up with requests for information, for assistance, for alliance. The Nexarians have officially requested Earth's support in their independence negotiations, James continued. 3 other species have made similar requests. They think our presence at the diplomatic table will encourage the Empire to be more reasonable. Sarah turned away from the window, her expression thoughtful. And so the real work begins. The battle was the easy part. Now we have to help reshape the galaxy without triggering a complete collapse of interstellar civilization. In the weeks that followed, humanity began to reveal more of its true nature, but carefully, strategically. They showed enough to maintain the deterrent effect of their victory, but kept enough in reserve to maintain their advantage. Earth's diplomats, who had spent years playing the role of naive newcomers, now moved through galactic politics with sophisticated grace. The Empire found itself in an unprecedented position, having to negotiate with a species they had intended to conquer. The humans' terms were surprisingly moderate. Immediate independence for any species that requested it, free access to previously restricted trade routes, and a complete restructuring of the Imperial military's integration protocols. But behind these official demands, a deeper change was taking place. Earth had demonstrated more than just advanced technology. They had shown that resistance was possible, that appearances could be deceiving, that the mighty could fall. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor received an intelligence report that made his scales pale. 3 previously stable Imperial worlds had declared their independence in the past week. The report concluded with a warning that would have been unthinkable just months before. The myth of Imperial invincibility is broken. The galaxy is changing, and the Empire must change with it, or risk losing everything. The age of unquestioned Imperial dominance was over. A new era of galactic politics was beginning, shaped by the species that had pretended to be primitive while building the power to reshape the stars themselves. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage not with a whisper, but with a revolution that would echo through the cosmos for generations to come. 5 years after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy had transformed in ways few could have predicted. The great halls of the Galactic Concordat, a new interstellar assembly headquartered on Earth's moon, buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of species worked to forge a new future among the stars. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Earth's senior ambassador to the Concordat, stood at a quantum glass window overlooking the massive construction project on the lunar surface. Hybrid teams of humans and aliens worked together, building vessels that combined technologies from a dozen worlds. The sight would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. The latest report from the Technology Exchange Program, James Martinez said, joining her at the window. He traded his military uniform for diplomatic attire, though he still coordinated Earth's defense networks. The Nexarians have successfully integrated our quantum shielding with their biotechnology. The results are Impressive. Sarah nodded, remembering how this had all started. And the Empire? Still adjusting. The new emperor is more progressive than his predecessor, at least. Their delegation actually voted in favor of the Free Space Initiative yesterday. The Corexian Empire still existed, but it had been transformed. The defeat at Earth had forced a fundamental restructuring of imperial society. The hardliners who had dominated imperial politics for centuries had been replaced by reformers who understood that survival required adaptation. But the greatest changes had come not from political reorganization, but from the sharing of knowledge. Earth had begun carefully revealing its technological advances, not just to former imperial worlds, but to any species willing to join the Concordat and abide by its principles of peaceful coexistence and mutual defense. The Quantum Computing Conference starts next week, James continued. Scientists from 37 species working together to push the boundaries of what's possible. Who would have thought? Sarah smiled, remembering the years of isolation when humanity had developed these technologies in secret. We always knew this was the real goal, not just defending Earth, but helping to create something better. The evidence of that better future was everywhere. Former imperial worlds that had been stripped of resources for centuries were now developing sustainable technologies. Species that had been enemies for generations were working together on joint scientific ventures. The galaxy was learning that cooperation could achieve more than conquest. In deep space, joint human-alien crews patrolled the trade routes that had once been strangled by imperial control. Their ships combined Earth's quantum technology with innovations from a dozen other species, creating vessels more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen before. Message from the Arcturian delegation, James said, checking his quantum-linked display. They're ready to begin the next phase of the hyperspace mapping project. Their organic navigation systems, combined with our quantum sensors, they think they can map regions of space that were previously considered impossible to chart. This was humanity's true victory, not the defeat of an empire, but the creation of something new. Earth had emerged onto the galactic stage, not just as a powerful civilization, but as a catalyst for change. The former imperial palace on Corax Prime had been transformed into a center for interstellar cooperation. In halls where conquerors once plotted subjugation, scientists and scholars from across the galaxy now worked together to solve problems that affected all species. The latest surveys are in, Sarah said, pulling up her own display. Poverty rates in former imperial territories have dropped 60%. Access to advanced medical care has quadrupled. Education levels are rising across the board. She paused, looking out at the bustling lunar surface below. This is what we were really building all those years, not just weapons and shields, but the foundation for something better. The quantum sensors that had once been used to detect imperial ships now formed the backbone of an early warning system that protected all Concordat worlds. The dark matter technology that had torn apart the imperial fleet now powered clean energy systems on thousands of planets. In the great chamber of the Concordat, representatives from former imperial worlds sat alongside their one-time rulers as equals. The hierarchy that had dominated galactic politics for centuries had been replaced by something more egalitarian, more dynamic. There's a saying from one of the freed worlds, James mused, watching a group of young aliens examining a quantum drive prototype. They say that humans didn't just break the chains. We showed them how to forge new links, stronger ones. Sarah nodded, thinking of how far they'd come. Earth had hidden its true nature for years, building in secret while playing the role of a primitive civilization. They had done it not just to protect themselves, but because they had seen a better future was possible. The old empire believed that power came from dominance, she said. We showed them that real strength comes from working together, from combining our knowledge and capabilities to create something greater than any one species could achieve alone. As the sun rose over the lunar horizon, casting long shadows across the bustling construction yards, Sarah Chen thought about the message humanity had really sent that day 5 years ago. It wasn't just that Earth was powerful, or that the Empire could be defeated. The message was that the galaxy could be more than an endless cycle of conquest and subjugation. The stars stretched out above them, no longer a barrier or a battlefield, but a frontier that all species could explore together. Humanity had emerged from isolation not to conquer or dominate, but to help forge a new kind of civilization, one built on cooperation, innovation, and the shared dream of a better future for all. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.